right, we're live in the bunker. Let's talk about some garbage. So, how are you doing today, Eric?
Cleaned some stuff from my bathroom because there were people that were replacing the water faucet or whatever, and apparently it smelled really bad that it destroyed their sinuses or something. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, I had to like wipe a bunch of my bathroom utensils and such. So that's how I'm doing. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty all right, and interestingly enough, we're going to be talking about um like just a bunch
Mm.
of grime that gets into the fabric of things and ruins people's lives, and that
Mm.
is conspiracies. We're actually going to be talking about your favorite thing ever,
Oh,
conspiracies. What do you think about conspiracy theories?
in
How do you feel
general,
about them? Just as a general discussion topic, what is your
So I
overall
guess when I was
thoughts on
younger,
it?
conspiracy theories. When you're younger, when you learn a conspiracy theory, you kind of just assume it's true because people are so confident when they talk about them. So I remember, being young and like saying, "Oh, the Mothman," or like the reptilians, or the aliens, or like Planet X, or whatever it's called, like Zirfalon or whatever. And you just assume it's all true because it's like, oh, all these people, they're so confident, they have all this information stuff, and then you look back on that, it's like, oh, it's all cope for whatever is their issue of the day. It's all it's basically a campfire story if you think about it. That's I guess what I think about a lot of internet conspiracy theories is a lot of them are just campfire stories. Obviously, there's some that have come to light, but I feel like a lot of them are just nonsense at the end of the day.
A lot of them are nonsense, absolutely, and there's a very large proportion of them that they're a part of every aspect of society, but they're a very distinct weapon of
Mhm.
the political right wing in a way that it's not really present anywhere else in society, which is super
Oh,
interesting. And we're
nice.
going to be talking a lot about that today. Although I wanted to avoid something that hits too close to home. Obviously, we're dealing with this stuff right now. I didn't want to really dive too much into the something super close to home, although depending on where you're listening on to, this might be a little too close to your home, so I
Uh,
apologize for that. But we're going to be talking a little bit about a certain theory in the
oh,
Balkans. But before we get to that, before we discuss that, I'm going to just go over just a little bit of the milieu about specifically Balkan conspiracy theories and some of the history and just a general discussion on the topic. Give you a little bit of a primer. So first I'm just going to talk about a couple of my favorite little, I guess, pieces of information from the area and conspiracy theories. So a lot of them revolve around
oh,
Romania for
okay.
some reason. They have a lot of really fascinating conspiracy theories, and I say fascinating and they're utterly ridiculous in a lot of ways. So I'll start off as are you familiar at all with the communist leader Nicolae Ceausescu at all? Are you familiar with him at all? He's not our main topic, but there's one theory around him that I just had to bring up
Let's
because I
hear
find
it.
it hysterical. So during the era of the Warsaw Pact, and I'm going to
Hmm.
go very broad strokes because I don't want to spend too much time going over this, but after Stalin invaded Czechoslovakia, Ceausescu denounced him, and there was a very real fear from Romanians that Stalin was going to invade Romania, and he didn't. And so there's a lot of questions as to why. And the common conspiracy theory that was brought out, and no one really knows where this theory came from, is that Ceausescu, this like bumbling bumbling dude, had a ancient Dacian, and I'll go over what Dacian means, tank melting laser that could disintegrate entire Soviet tanks in
Yeah,
seconds.
I've heard
And
this
the
before.
reason that Stalin didn't
Yeah,
invade so I've
yeah.
discussed this with you before. The reason I bring it up though is because there's a lot to talk about specifically here because all of this stuff will tie back together in the end. So you have this insane idea, and for instance, what are the Dacians and where is all this like secret technology? So the idea of what a
Hmm.
Dacian is, and It's very similar to, like, almost Ancient Alien
Oh,
style
heck yeah.
conspiracies where they have this idea of, like it's kinda similar, it's the idea of hyper diffusion where it's like I don't know, have you
Of
ever heard that
course.
term where it's like they believe that yeah, there's a great civilization in the past that spread all this knowledge. This is the Romanian version of it. Dacia was a region during the time of the Romans that there's not that much documentation about. There's a little bit. They existed around that time. They fought with the Romans. But Romanian ultranationalists believe that they are the reasons that Rome was civilized. And they also believe they're the reasons that ancient Egypt was able to build the pyramids because they believe there's a series of tunnels built from Romania throughout the world, and the Dacians hid all their technology in these tunnels. And while they were still a civilization, they would just deliver technology to the rest of the world
I mean,
through
it's
these
just like
tunnel systems.
Scientology and like the Black Israelite theory. You just had a baby or something.
It's great. It's why I wanted to talk about it because it does tangentially relate to the main topic, but it's just it's so it really is crazy how universal a lot of this like insane person logic is where this random like Roman era kingdom is actually like a super powerful mega civilization that has like
And they used
secret
to be the most
tunnels
powerful thing in
delivering
the
like
world. Yeah, it's
laser.
basically just Atlantis at the end of the day if you think about it.
Well, so many conspiracy theories just boil down to like
It's
the
just
same four
Atlantis, the
sets
story of
of things, but
Atlantis. Like,
one one thing I like too is there was this one when I was looking into this, I found this one video where it was this guy talking about how the United States military was creating like
oh,
weather patterns.
it's
Again,
like
we're
G.I.
getting
Joe.
all of the
Okay.
staples. So you know all the like you know how like people think that like the US government has like a heart machine where they can create weather patterns. This is something they think throughout the world because of the internet. So you have these insane people in Romania who believe that the US government is using their weather technology not to destroy their political rivals, not to do anything like that, but to specifically
Oh,
harass Romania so that they could crack open the underground secret tunnels filled with super technology so that the US could, like, gain access to the technology,
oh,
and it's just it's so it's so specific, and it's so convoluted. I it's one of my favorite, like, just nonsense, like, the whole, like, Dacian stuff is it's some incredible stuff, and there's a yeah, so that's kind of where we're starting, so, you know, from there is great, and then, one this is the last sort of tangential thing before we really start
yeah.
diving into it. I just wanted this, you know, this is a good little hors d'oeuvres plattered. There's also the conspiracy theory of the did I ever speak to you about the black
I don't think
ambulance
so.
theory?
Let's hear this theory.
Th- There was a mass hysteria event in the early 2000s around the early internet about ambulances that were completely black that when you would call the ambulance go to the hospital and a completely black ambulance would show up and they would like kidnap you and like steal your
Oh, yeah,
organs
yeah, of
and
course,
like drop you
yeah.
off
I
or like
oh, you mean the organ
and this
theory,
is like
yeah,
the
yeah, I know it via, like, the was, like, the organ theory. Yeah, I know that
but
exactly, yeah. That was very pot
the Romanian version of this was literally that the ambulances were colored completely jet black, and they would show up instead of the normal ambulance, and they would just show up and steal your organs or, like, kidnap you, and it was spread online to the point where the state news agencies had to report on the fact that there was no ambulances because it created
the
such
every time I
hysteria.
hear that theory, like, when it comes back into the woodwork, I think of, like, the Monty Python: The Meaning of Life, that one, like the one sketch where they just steal his organs, like, you know which one I'm talking about? Like, it's literally that, they just they literally go in
Oh, yeah.
his, I forget which, actor's place and steals organs. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's probably where a lot of these theories came from, it's just people misremembering Monty Python." I
It's crazy to think a lot honestly, a lot of stuff like this probably just comes from some person who's misremembered a television show or like had a dream based off of a TV show that they watched and thought it was like a
Probably.
vision. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, so now that we've had a kind of a sampling, I'm gonna kind of move into the sort of the meat and bones of what we'll be talking about. So, interesting thing about conspiracy theories and everything is that for ultra nationalism and like the right to operate, they need to have that idea of kind of the the lost and corrupted past, the glory days, the thing we need to
Mhm.
return to. And in a society, like and they always construct this past, but in certain areas it's a lot easier to construct this past than others. And a lot of countries will have really complex and deep histories, but it's not exciting in the way that like people that don't actually care about history would find exciting. So they can't use it for fascist propaganda. Like everyone cares about Rome, but so many people aren't going to care about like something like the Diggers in the English Civil War, which is a really cool political movement. Or like a lot of these people don't care about history, they just care about looking
Yeah,
at cool armor and cool buildings. And that's how you have to tool these glorious pasts. So if you don't have that, conspiracy theories offer a really good avenue to kind of invent so the sort of the glory
mhm,
days we need to return to. Because yeah, so there's basically that. And a good example of that was for the Nazis. They A big problem they ran into in their early days was Mussolini's government had Rome to pull from, but a lot of the thoughts around ancient German civilization is they were always labeled as barbarians, and there's so much history there, but like a lot of the history is tribal. A lot of the history is what I guess the types of people who would be in these governments would view as uncivilized. So a big way that invented all this stuff was through conspiracies, and the Nazis used conspiracies in a lot of ways. The entire angle of anti-Semitism
mhm.
as a conspiracy. You had the whole Judeo-Bolshevik conspiracy. You also had the weird like occult and like real stuff, which not going into too much of a thing now. You're seeing a
You
weird
had
revival of it on the
astrology
internet.
too.
Astrology is a big one too. And a lot of the backdrop of the Nazis was based off of the stuff from Helena Blavatsky too. And a lot of the writings of Blavatsky went into the creation of the Thule Society, and a few of the members of the Thule Society became founding members of the Nazis. So the occult and conspiracy nonsense is hand in hand with Nazism. It just goes super deep. It's Conspiracy theories offered a really good avenue for them to invent that past, but it also offered a really good avenue to give them a consistent enemy that they
For
needed
sure.
to fight.
Let's hear
So
where this is leading. Let's hear it.
now you might be wondering, where am I going with all this? Where am I going? We're going to talk about quote unquote
Oh,
Bosnian
okay.
pyramids today. I wrote in my notes Samir and the fucking pyramids. I'm very biased against these stupid fucking pyramids. I'm being very vulgar in talking about them because, spoiler alert, they are literally just mountains that are eroded to look like pyramids. But they have created such a grift around these stupid things that the government protects them. You see TikTok and YouTube videos that have millions and millions of views talking about the ancient origins of the Bosnian pyramids and the Pyramid of the Sun,
It's
and
awesome.
it's just complete slop. So I figured that would be a very fun topic to kind of go over and discuss. And it's also something.
How
Have
did
you
they?
heard anything
If
about
you
these
send me an
stupid
image,
things?
and maybe.
I would absolutely recommend, while I'm gonna be reading a quote in a second. While I'm reading a quote, just pulling up a quick image of the Bosnian pyramids so you can see what I'm talking about. Just looking at these things, they're not pyramids. You can just look at
Let's
them and see
let's
that.
look.
And no expert other than Samir, who is not an archaeologist, he has no background in this, and I will go in a little bit into his past. He- which there's not too much information about his past, but we have a little bit. I'm gonna read a direct quote from Ashlyn Bedoin from a Median article. This will just paint a good picture of. In 2005, Samir Osmanovic noticed the pyramidal formation in the mountains of Vizok, Bosnia, near the ancient city of modern Sarajevo. Samir, a metalworker contractor of Bosnian extraction in Houston, suggested these pyramid formations were monumental construction projects built by an ancient civilization. This claim was particularly remarkable because, if man-made, the Bosnian pyramids predate the Egyptian structures by
8,000.
8,000 years and exceed the height of the Pyramid of Giza. So this guy is claiming that these pyramids are 8,000 years older than the pyramids of Giza. This would also place them several thousand years older than Gölbekli Tepe, which is the oldest archaeological research site that we know of that is from 9,000 BC. And he's claiming that these mounds of dirt, basically, in Bosnia are both more
People still believe
complex and
this?
advanced than that. There's a lot of reasons as to why, which is why it's super interesting. So, if you had evidence for this, this would be an incredible claim. This would probably rewrite the history of not just the entire region, but human history as a whole, obviously, right? Like, you have civilization would have an year end of another several thousand years, but do you think
Let's hear
old
him out. Let's
Sammy
hear him
had
out.
good evidence? So I'll give you a little bit of a background for Sammy, and there's not too much information of his early days. Like, there really isn't. Like, every source I find, including his personal propagandized bio, does not include much. So what I do have, though, is he was born in former Yugoslavia. The first major thing that we have about him, the first major piece of his life that we have, is that he worked in a import export business, which I'm not
Uh,
going to allege anything, but you are living in Yugoslavia during the government of Tito. You are a guy who eventually went on to immediately work in an oil company, which is his immediate job afterwards, and you are running an import-export business. Have you ever heard of the word
I can't
smuggling?
say I have.
I'm not alleging that he was a smuggler. I'm saying that there is a possibility that that's the most likely thing that he was doing, considering we don't have much other information. But that's probably what he was doing. After this, yeah, he ended up becoming an oil contractor in Houston because the outbreak of the Yugoslav Civil War ended up making him leave the country, which, to be fair to Samir, I think anyone would want to leave the region with how absolutely devastating it was. I mean, a quarter of the population of the former Yugoslavian Republic ended up leaving the region, and there's so much diaspora around the world from it. Notice how you have he was
Hmm.
in import export, he was in oil, and then he found the pyramids. Are you noticing a big qualification that's missing from
Zaid?
his
Is that it?
background? He has
Oh,
no
okay.
experience in archaeology. Literally zero. He has never done anything in archaeology. He has never in his life gotten education in archaeology. He has worked in import export and in
So
oil, and then he
he has
found the
no
pyramids.
certifications.
Um
I see.
None. None whatsoever. The Civil War in the Balkans was absolutely brutal. This is not an episode about those. You can make a incredibly long podcast just on the conflict with how brutal it was. I'm focusing on it for a little bit because this story is very much over the backdrop of this conflict. A lot of the reason that this legend is given credence is because of the scars left by this conflict and the void left after the fall of communism in the region and the just just the sadness that's kind of remained since then. So he another thing is that Samir throughout his time in the region has or time with the pyramids has consistently almost universally lied
Hmm.
about them. In 2006, he claimed that he had a team of researchers confirm the validity of the
Who were the
findings of
researchers?
the pyramids.
Who's this alleged group of verifiers?
Well, that's the thing. The group that he claimed that did said they had no knowledge of this trip and they weren't on
So
it.
he just found out about a group of, I guess, verifiers. He just named them in like the application process without their permission at all. Wow,
Yes, yes. Another reason I wanted to talk about this a lot is he's big on this whole like diffusionist ancient alien kind
nice.
of bullshit. He believes that these pyramids are incredibly powerful artifacts and he believes that there are tunnels underneath the pyramids, which is why I brought up the tunnels before because there's a pattern here. I don't know what it is with the tunnels, but they really like the tunnels. So there is the main pyramid, and I say pyramid with quotations, but you can't really see it over audio. He claims is called the Pyramid of the Sun, and that it produces scalar waves and torsion
Sick.
fields, which sounds like some garbage I would make up. It's not there's not a real thing. And I want to read you a quote just to explain the raw, like pure brilliance of the kind of bullshit this man is peddling. This is word for word quote of what he said. Russian scientists say that the speed of scalar waves is 100 million times
1 million,
faster than the speed of
1 million
light.
times fast. That's just nonsense. I
100
don't think
million
that's
times
like even
faster.
scientifically like doable, like at all.
It's
How do you
not.
how do you measure
It
that?
literally doesn't
How do
make
you
any sense.
measure? Yeah, how do you measure that? How would you measure that? I guess.
You wouldn't because it wouldn't be observable because light's the fastest observable thing, so he just knows well, it's because he talked to
But
quote
how?
unquote "Russian
Well,
scientists."
well, how?
Like, you don't need to know
Well, he
who,
says
but
it's
just,
a
like,
hundred
Russian
times million
scientists.
faster. How do we know it's just not 1,000 times faster? What's the exact difference between the two?
Well, I mean, he found this out working in
How does that
import-export,
make
so,
sense?
like,
Like,
you
so,
know like, it's, like, the most bullshit thing I've ever heard someone say, like, it really is impressive that not only is this something that people just are like, "Oh, yeah, this is a thing I'll believe," but he has backing from the government of
awesome,
Bosnia.
thick shit.
So there's some more that's some really great stuff about this. He's also a weird COVID guy. Were you expecting that? Because
I
it was
mean,
pretty obvious he
when
probably
you talk
was.
about him, I think of him like he's in the past sense. I thought he's already dead at this point.
No, he's still kicking, and
So,
these stupid pyramids are still
so yeah,
around, and
I
he's
didn't have him
still
as a COVID
grifting.
guy. I had him just not alive anymore.
So he is a very weird COVID
Nice.
guy, and during
Pandemic,
the pandemic,
scandemic,
I'm sourcing a
pandemic,
lot of this.
scamdemic.
Oh, my
Hell yeah.
favorite Pitbull quote. Honestly, I think Pitbull should go to the
He
Pyramid of the
could. Remember
Sun.
remember
Maybe
he went to
like
like was it
maybe he
Canada because like they voted for him to like have a concert there or something, and he like went there.
maybe maybe if Pitbull does a concert at the Pyramid of the Sun, he can like
That'd be
interact with the
sick.
torsion field and and that will like bring us into the new scholar era or whatever I don't know. I'm just saying stuff, but like that's about as sensical as what he's talking about. So yeah,
Hell
he
yeah.
also used COVID to further his grift, claiming that walking through the dig site could cure people of COVID. He went as far to say, "I can tell you this: I have never had COVID, and being in this place is 1,000 times more powerful than any vaccine." I don't know what is the thing with,
thousands.
like, claiming very specific
Why can't you say it's
goals.
better? Why does it be like 100 million, 1,000? Like he must have very exact calculations. This man,
Yeah, I mean, I guess
he
he just
knows.
knows, it's like he but it was an actual problem in Bosnia where you would have people who would refuse to get vaccinated because 'cause they'd rather just go to the
That's
pyramid and
awesome.
walk through it because they believed that this would have a better chance of curing them because of the position of the pyramid, and all of his lies will just get repeated by all these
Just
other
astrology at this point. Like,
quacks.
oh, the sun determines your course of action, I guess, or something.
And one of the crazy things about conspiracies is they all just get molded together into these big webs. So you'll have like people talking about like, oh, uh, ancient alien stuff, and then they'll include like Samir's
That's
garbage
awesome.
in there as well. So they'll be like, oh, ancient aliens built the Bosnian pyramids, and they're at like the center of like the Earth's like magnetic power,
As you do, as you
and
do.
you just have all of this stuff just built. Mhm. It's really cool. I think it's great that we've basically just allow these people to say anything and are like, "Yeah, that's what we should." I think as a society, it's really healthy that we just let
Hell
these
yeah.
people just go off and are like, "Yeah, instead of vaccines, we
It's
should
true
have like
though.
pyramid magic." Hmm. And my favorite quote from our the legend, the greatest man alive currently, Robert Kennedy. When you leave water out at night and it starts tasting bad, that's because the water's
Oh, is that why he
haunted.
said Jimmy
That's
Hoffa or something?
it's just something that I saw online, but it's
Well, because
probably
he said
something he
Robert
would
Kennedy,
say.
so you didn't say Junior, so I assume it's his.
I
I
was talking
believe him.
about the
Just
bad
kidding, in
Robert
case
Kennedy.
anyone is has not picked up on that. I just realized.
No, we're not fans of Worm Boy on this show, so don't worry about that if you're listening. Furthermore, this slop getting all the attention that it's on has done some actual serious damage
Oh
to the
no.
archaeology field in Bosnia. The war caused a lot of museums and historical sites to go into disrepair and like face damage, and the fiscal situation in the region has not been great since the war. You've had austerity, you've had just so many people have left, and there's been demographic crises, and you've also had issues with like IMF loans and restructuring, so it's been really hard to get funding in a lot of these places and a lot of these museums. And then where does all the government money go? It goes to
Oh,
Samir and his fucking pyramids. It doesn't go to the museums, it doesn't go to the historical sites, it goes to Samir and his pyramids. And a big reason for this is because one,
yeah,
they're a
people go
really big
there on
tourist site.
average.
I don't have the exact numbers, but they're a significant enough tourist site where there's an entire like tourist industry that's popped up in the towns around the pyramids selling like novelty
Wow.
merchandise, and they're really popular with like conspiracy theorists to visit. So you'll have a lot of tourists from like America and other parts of Europe that will go there. It's kind of like how
Oh
Area
yeah, remember the
51
Area
has spawned a
51 thing? I
tourist
completely
industry.
forgot about that. Sheesh.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. It's led to this whole tourist industry sort of popping up around it, but on top of having this substantial effect on their economy, which obviously money speaks, you have the right wing
Oh,
of Bosnia embracing these pyramids. And the reason they embrace them is because if you have Bosnia being the cradle of civilization, it's a good way for a lot of people with less materially minded outlook to like look towards the past rather than the future to try to recreate this sort of imagined vision of it sounds ridiculous to say, but like a super
oh hell
civilization
yeah.
Bosnia. And it also is a way for Bosnia as a country to heal from a lot of the scars that it's faced from the civil war and a lot of the trauma, because It's hard for us here to really fully grapple with how horrific the war was. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Yugoslav Civil War, but it's one of the worst conflicts in the
I feel like
last
every
like 30
time
years,
I
and
hear or see mention of it, it's always like one of the worst, things you could be a part of. So
yeah, and it's a situation where a lot of people like to play like broad strokes and like try to make it out to be some simple conflict, and there really weren't many heroes in that war. It was just atrocities on all sides, and NATO being pretty horrible. Pretty much everyone in that conflict was really horrible. It was just a bad time to be around. So there's just a lot of genuine pain there, and oh, this stupid fake historical site has been a very good way for a lot of people to rally behind. And it's to the point where you have actual experts that know what they're talking about are like, hey, this is just a mountain. This is a mountain that, because of erosion, is shaped like a pyramid. And they are called unpatriotic.
Lord,
They are called basically traitors. They are, they're basically just leveled as attacks that they don't care about the nation because this stupid fake thing has been tied up with the national identity, because instead of looking at Bosnia's actual past that's there, that's not being taken care of, that rather than focusing on the actual past that's rotting away in damaged historical sites and museums that are underfunded, we're going to invest all of it in this slop site that is ran by a con man that is only interested in like magic, like pyramid mysticism, and selling like merchandise, and like, and all you really need to talk about with him is his business. His background is not archaeology. His background since his first job has always been business, has always been selling things. He is in the business of selling things, and he has sold not just a historical site, but he has sold a nationalist identity in the form of a historical artifact. And it's causing some actual damage, although not to the scale of something like a QAnon, or like something like some of the stuff around like the Epstein saga, but like it is causing damage to the region, and it's going to be something that the people there are going to have to grapple with for a long time, because at the end of the day, a lot of these types that talk about how they want to go out
it's
and
like
defend.
Mount Everest, where there's so many tourists there that that just damage the original site of its like actual like original form because there's just so much like dead bodies or just shit there that just it just like permanently damaged forever.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's also why when people on the side of the political spectrum talk about how they want to defend history, it's so disingenuous, because they don't actually want to defend history. They want to defend their view of history, you know what I mean? In our country, for example, the big debate was around Confederate statues, and it's still
Yep.
a debate, unfortunately. But it's a situation where a lot of the people that are having this debate either are intentionally disingenuous, or a lot of people who are not in the know just think, oh, they're statues, that we shouldn't tear them down, that's part of history, not knowing that these statues were put up during Jim Crow to create the vision of there being a long continuous history of celebrating these people, when the purpose of these statues was to reinforce a vision that they wanted to create. Similarly, the reverence of these pyramids is trying to create a vision as well. And at the end of the day, it's just a self-fulfilling like cycle. It's just reinforcing itself. It wasn't a super long thing, but that is just kind of the broad strokes of what I wanted to talk about, because it's super interesting to see how something as stupid as like a bunch of like triangle shaped mountains can go on to reinforcing nationalism in a
Hell
country
yeah.
and causing actual experts to be labeled as traitorous. And it's also something that, while it's not directly happening to us, it's very analogous to the stuff we deal with, because unfortunately where we live, experts are labeled as like unpatriotic all the time for doing their jobs. So yeah, that was kind of what I want. That's kind of what I had, and I wanted to just talk with you a little bit about it. So So what did you think overall about the wonderful saga of Samir and
I had no idea this guy was still
Bosnia?
alive from the way he talked about it. It seemed like it was like past tense. So you're like, oh, he's a COVID guy, so he's just still around and he's still he's still grifting these pyramids. Not good, I would say. I'm very I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but it's like I feel like out of all the things that are like recognizable in this world, like a pyramid would be like a very recognizable thing. So I guess to mistake like a pyramid over like a natural land formation is something, all right. Like I'm not sure how you can get to that point in your life where you confuse mountains and pyramids, but okay.
It's really fascinating because have you looked at the pictures of them
Can you
yet?
send me a
And
picture real
I
quick?
can I think for the
I need to see them.
yes, absolutely. I think for the thumbnail for the thumbnail for this, we're gonna include these stupid things because it really is something because it's you can only see pyramids here is if you
You
don't
squint your
actually
eyes,
know how
maybe.
pyramids work or you are just
That's like a
trying to see a
Rorschach test.
pyramid.
Yeah.
Like this is the supposed yeah, it's just like it
Oh,
really a nationalist Rorschach test. Does
no.
this look like a
This looks
pyramid?
like a mountain,
Like
a
the
land formation.
everyone yeah. Yeah, it's a mountain. It is a mountain.
Wait,
The
what?
argument that Samir
What?
has is that
Wha-
it's covered in
that-
natural growth and
That's
trees
not how
because
that
it hasn't
works.
been, like, used, but it's not how that works, absolutely, and also, if there had been a civilization here, there's been people living in Bosnia for a long time, they would cut some of these like, they would keep this thing somewhat maintained, like, there's ruins all over the world that aren't
No,
this overgrown,
like,
like
and well, okay, it's not. It's also not shaped like a pyramid. It's like none of the sides are like equal, and like, so how would it stand at like as a man-made structure? You know?
it also there's so
Yeah.
many deformities in it,
And
and it
the
just
trees clearly show that like the depth of
it's
like the land and stuff is it's just not equal at all. It's just like rivets and stuff. And I don't know. You look at like something like the pyramids in like Mexico, right? And like those are like in front of like grasslands, and I mean those things are still like intact, stone and all, right, or whatever. It's cobblestone and all, right. Like those are those things are surrounded by grass and like trees and stuff, and they're still in one piece. So what is this thing's excuse? Like they just got engulfed, wouldn't it? If it okay, yeah, if it got engulfed by like trees and like nature, wouldn't it just break down, right? Because like the plants would grow inside it, right? And it would just crack all the it would
it
crack all
would
the
break
cobblestone
down.
down, and then
Yeah,
just it would just cease to exist, right?
well, it's
Oh,
because the
true.
torsion fields, those are actually keeping it afloat. I love like I I say that's something I'd come up with it. I said that like, oh, I would come up with that, but like I don't think I could come up with words as stupid as torsion
So
fields
so we
and
got the torsion
scalar
fields, we got
waves.
the
Like
skull waves. Did you check if like there was some megalon included in that?
I did not see if there was any megalon included, but this could be where the idea for Megalopolis came from.
I guess Megalopolis at least it involved real structures and real like buildings instead of plants and rocks, I guess.
It's just so funny. Yeah, and that's what my this is what inspired me to make this because I knew about these things and I had heard of like Bosnian pyramids for a while, but like what really inspired me to start talking about it in this episode was like I just actually looking them up and just seeing like one of these pictures and I'm like,
And
that's
is
just a
this
fucking
is this
mountain.
what unobtainium does to like structures? Like like that's a clear
And
that,
imagine how frustrated you would be if you were an archaeologist. You went to school for like fucking like 4 to 8 years and you're like, "That's a mountain, guys." And they're like, "Oh, you're
I,
fucking
If
unpatriotic. You
if
don't
that's a
care about this
mountain,
great
that's probably
nation."
probably gotta be one of the biggest pyramids ever made, if that's the case. Like, look how small those like the town looks in comparison to like the quote unquote pyramid. That is like I don't know. I feel like that's got to be bigger than most pyramids, or at least like thicker.
Well, it would if it
And how
was
would you build
actually a
it there?
pyramid,
It's
which it's
impossible to
not.
build it with all
If
those
it
like
was
like land rifts and stuff. Like the ground's not it's not flat there. There's lots of like hills and stuff. How would you build it there? That's like that is like impossible because this I'm assuming this would be like an ancient civilization that would build this. How would they build the um uh, I,
Well, it was is so what they did is they got the lasers from
I
Dacia,
see
and they used those to cut the stones, and then they used, like, a
Gundam.
Gundam to actually pick up the stones and
Mm.
stack them. Yeah. It's just like, because yeah, the more you look at it, the more questions it raises. Because like, the ground isn't
The
flat.
mountain isn't
It's
flat.
also this is taller than Giza. This is taller than Giza, and it's
It's
supposed
the
to be
size of a
older, so you're
skyscraper at
like,
least too. Like those buildings right there, those are like decently sized buildings. I mean, like a couple stories high, right? At least 2 stories high, right? So like that's got to be like
mhm.
around 10 to 15 stories high, and I'm guessing the ancient civilization built that girth of it. I mean, I guess it is kind of like Gundam. It's like Turn A Gundam, but anyway, um,
I mean, also to put into perspective how old we're talking,
yeah. How how would
he's
you build
saying this
that?
pyramid
How do
is
we advance to like build this like unorthodox, like uneven structure thousands of years ago? Like,
okay, so I want to explain how old we're talking, because the ludicrousness of it. I'm just gonna find the exact date so I give you an idea. Predate the
that
Egyptian
that
pyramids
doesn't
by
make any
8,000
sense.
years, which is just it makes no sense. But like, okay, so
Like
the
8,000 years,
the Egyptian
8,000 years.
pyramids are
That's
supposed to
80
okay.
centuries. What?
Some researchers have suggested that the pyramids were built in
Oh,
25,000 BC. Others suggest dates around 12,000
how is it
BC.
still there
Keep in
then? What's
mind,
maintaining like the structure? Like,
nothing would. Also, keep in mind too, my brain is actually like it short circuits whenever I think of like the dates of these pyramids, because actually, yeah, so like the port town of Babylon was founded in the third millennium BC, and like the actual Babylonian Empire was founded in the 18th century. So like, apparently this guy is claiming that the Egyptian pyramids were, or sorry, not Egyptian pyramids. Again, I'm saying Egyptian because like I think actually like real pyramids and not like piles of dirt. Sorry, the Bosnian pyramids are older than Samaria and Babylon
it's
by a lot.
ginormous at that. So,
Yeah, because the old like the old Babylonian Empire was from 16th to 16th century BC, and the oldest estimates for the Bosnian pyramids are from the 25,000 BC. So like
and we built like
9,000
this
years
giant,
difference.
giant ass pyramid that like towers like most man-made structures.
It kind of leaves me speechless that people believe it, but also it's something that people just want to believe. It's people want to believe that, oh, we were like the cradle of civilization. A lot of bad things have happened. There is some cool history in Bosnia, but it's not as exciting as like, oh, we were Rome, but like, oh, we have this cool structure. It doesn't affect people's lives. Like, even if it was like the oldest thing ever built, like it doesn't change anything. Like, even if it was the oldest thing ever built and all these claims were true, there are no scholar raves, and it doesn't cure COVID. It's still just like a pile of
Just
rocks
in
at the
this,
end of the
like I would
day.
expect this from like a
Uh,
caveman. Like, oh, look at the giant rock in the sky. It like feeds the sun or whatever. But like people, and I'm assuming in a modern age with like cities and roofs, still believing in like a literal caveman, like seeing a mountain for the first time is um cool.
you would really be surprised how common this like I've been looking at a lot of conspiracy nonsense recently just because of this episode, and there's so many times where people's entire basis for their conspiracy theory is, look at this thing, it looks like this other thing. There's a big rock formation in the like plains of the United States, and a big conspiracy that is that it's this giant tree because it looks like a stump. It's not a stump, it's made of rocks, but it looks like a stump. And it's like,
It
it
acts
doesn't
like a
matter that it
stump.
looks like it. I guess maybe, Maybe pattern recognition was a mistake. Maybe we need to de-evolve that. I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I don't know. I don't know where we'd be without it, but is it helping us if we think that like
No,
if
you're not
this is
smart
what we come
enough.
up with? Um, maybe I'm not. Maybe I need to step into the tunnels and get like some scholar rays and like the torsion field. Also, I like it's just called the Pyramid of the Sun, and like where's the other pyramids? I see
Yeah,
pyramids and
what?
like all these pictures. I just see like one mountain and then
We
just like
should
a
go there
couple
one
like
day.
blobs. We should take. I think we should have
We should go
recorded
on
the episode there.
go to the
Personally,
top of it,
we should
climb it.
we should get Samir on the
What
show.
a
We should ask
pyramid.
him, ask his perspective. That was basically the discussion of the greatest thing ever made. So anything else you want to say
Um,
before we seal off the bunker?
should I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do my own research. That's what you should do. You should do your own research on this. Don't listen to fake news, do your own research.
That is actually really true. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go outside and I'm gonna look at things, and if it looks like something, that's what it is. So there's a giant building in Pigeon Forge, which is very near where I live. I just doxed myself. Oh no. Uh there's a giant building near where I live that looks like the Titanic, so that
Is.
means it is the Titanic. So I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna drown. So I won't be here for the next episode, and so that's how I'm gonna end it. See y'all.